So it was deliberate. And talking about the level of debts, okay, we understand why citizens are concerned because of the ramp up. But Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio is still less than 3%. That is one of the lowest anywhere in the world. It's less than 3%. If you look at our comparator countries, countries that you can compare us to, some of them are at 25, some are at even 65. So we're still very, very prudent. The Fiscal Responsibility Act allows us in this country to borrow up to 3%. We're still less than 3% in terms of borrowing. The challenge is that the revenues have not ramped up enough, fast enough at the level that we want it to be. And we're doing everything to make sure that moves forward. So there is some stress in terms of debt service, but we're still able to do debt service. We have not failed. But what it means is other expenditures that are non-priority suffer because your revenues are not enough, and we prioritize debt service, we prioritize payment of salaries, we prioritize payment of some statutory category expenditure that must be done. And that means we end up not being able to every month provide operational expenditure for MDAs. For example, in 2017, 7 months was released. But despite that, we were able to release 1.5 trillion for capital projects. These capital projects put people back to work. It stimulates the several value chains in the economy, allowing productivity to increase. We also have prioritized strengthening our development finance institutions by recapitalizing the new development bank, a Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture, so that small, medium enterprises have access to low-cost financing in a timely manner to enable them grow. The CBN has done a great deal of work by providing special funds such as the Uncle Borrower program that really has catalyzed the growth in the agricultural sector that we have seen today. So these are things that we have started, we're doing, and we're continuing to do. There is no cause for alarm in terms of the levels of our debt. It's still very healthy, it's very low. What we're concerned about is our revenues. So my special focus is working with the revenue agencies as well as the state-owned enterprises to increase government revenues.
Well, this is one of the issues that comes up. You know, we hear these major figures coming out from some of the revenue-generating agencies in the country that make Nigerians kind of ask the question, why is it that if we're seeing these rising revenues from our agencies, we're continuing to increase, you know, the rate at which we are accumulating debt? And one of the examples that comes up, obviously, we know last year FIRS was able to generate approximately 4 trillion. They're on pace to do even more this year. The customs, 1 trillion, NPA, 300 billion. So money is coming in. Why is it then that with money coming in, and that's not even including, of course, oil revenues, why are we still running a deficit in terms of our budget?
Because it's still not enough. The budget side for 2017 was 7 trillion. That's the expenditure. Of that expenditure, 2.2% of that is supposed to be financed by borrowing. None of the revenue streams has performed 100% except for customs, which is really a small proportion. So while FIRS has improved in terms of tax collections, it still has not performed up to 70%. So, and we need to do more. And then our greatest weakness is actually the revenues that we project to make from the government-owned enterprises. The performance is about 25%. And so we're doing a lot of efforts to re-energize those investments that government has done in those enterprises to strengthen their management frameworks. We have developed new tracking mechanisms to ensure that they perform more optimally. Because the better that they perform, the more revenues the more remittances, operating remittances they can send to the Federation. The Inland Revenue also is working at expanding the tax base so that the taxes that are projected to be collected can be collected fully and optimally. So the revenues are still short. That is the challenge. And as long as the revenues are short, we have financing means such as from recoveries, which is not significant enough to to go as far as we should, but we have to borrow to be able to cover the deficit. And like I said, we designed our budgets to borrow to fund capital expenditure.
Why is it then that our budgets tend to be, I mean, not just ambitious, but they seem to be kind of perpetually bloated in the sense that you have, for example, let me use the SIP as an example. Over the last 2 years, approximately 2 trillion has been set, 1.5 trillion has been set aside for that. Only about 300 billion so far in terms of cash releases. Why is it that we seem to be creating these budgets that we know we're not even going to live up to because of the deficits and because of our cash shortfalls?
Well, the example you gave, the social investment program, is a good one. The intention of the president is to make sure that we support the build-up of human capacity, and also that we support the weak and the vulnerable within our society. So it's a very good intention. We have not been able to attain the 500 billion for 2 reasons. One, it's a program that builds up gradually, because there is a lot of planning work that goes into making sure that this program is not another social investment program that will start and stop. So there's a lot of initial work that had to be done. In 2016, when it started, we couldn't kick off until October, because we are not implementing directly. The states, this implementation are going on in the states. So you have to work with the states, you have to work with the communities to plan properly how to ramp up.
Honorable Minister, we're going to continue. We're just going to take a very short break, and we will get the conclusion of your thought. Our viewers, please do stay with us.